Hello, everyone, and welcome to BitRate. I'm John Alvis,
Hello.
and joining me, as always, is my buddy Ash.
That will be me. Hi, I'm here.
Now, before the episode started, we were just talking about how there was like some weird background noise, and as soon as the show goes live, it stopped.
Isn't that always the way?
So that's fun. We had a plumbing issue at our house where we sprung a leak, and it like bubbled and like ruined the ceiling in our dining room.
Well, that fucking sucks.
And so we've been having like some restoration work done on it, and that is included. They've set up like dehumidifiers and fans in the dining room and then the bathroom upstairs that have been running 24/7. They're going to be running for like the next like 7 days or something like that. So but they gave me the restoration people gave me the instructions and gave me permission to turn it off during this show and during the podcast that I actually have to do after this.
Right.
Because otherwise it was super freaking loud, and they were like, it takes 20 minutes to wind down, so it actually just turned off as we went live.
I've kind of had the opposite noise problem a day or two ago because I've had troubles like really motivating myself to do much work in the last week or so. But on the one day where I was like, all right, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna do a lot of shit, the moment I woke up, on the other side of the wall that my bed is up against, I just hear drilling at like 10 a.m. Which, okay, that's not illegal. You know, that's me being a late to rise and all that. So I can't even get mad. Except it wasn't like continuous drilling for an hour. It was always like drilling for 3 minutes, then silence for 10, then drilling for another 6. And it just did that for 5 hours straight. It was literally every single time I pressed record on anything, I was like, all right, let's go. Fuck! It was the entire day. I was going insane.
Jesus, that's always the worst. Yeah, for the first day trying to get used to the fans and the humidifier and everything like that wasn't so bad. Just because like you get really used to the droning noise after a while. It was that every once in a while the humidifier would have to purge. Yeah, and it has that dehumidifier has like a tube that goes from the dehumidifier into the kitchen sink across the room, and so it has to pump the liquid that it's like pulled out of the air through this tube, and it goes whang, and it's just like really loud for like 3 minutes.
I'm honestly willing to put up with almost anything, even if it annoys me a bit, because like, you know, people gotta work, people gotta do stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like I deal with it,
so I can't get too mad, but I get very annoyed when it's like inconsistent noise.
Oh yeah.
Like when it doesn't make sense to me that it just keep an entire day of just randomly banging or drilling at completely nonsensical intervals.
Yeah, and like it's one of those things you can't avoid it because it is the nature of what they're doing. But
of course,
with consistent noise, at the very least, you could set up like noise gates and noise removal to like remove them from the background of recordings. You can't if it's inconsistent. So it just like
every single time I tried to do anything.
Yeah.
I was just either here hammering or drills. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. Sorry about the domestic bullshit for a second there, people.
No, we are here to talk about the Switch 2 was finally announced, which I know we're about a week late to the game, but Ash had other things last week. But we will touch upon something really quick. I know that I'm actually springing this on you, Ash, because I forgot that this happened. But we should talk about it. Carnage here says, please tell me you and John watched the Ninja Gaiden 4 trailer.
Oh, shit, I have no idea.
Let's touch really quickly upon because we had an Xbox Developer Direct 2025. And there were a few things that were announced. We got some new looks at some things. It wasn't anything like super earth-shattering, but there were some things to really get hyped about. Ninja Gaiden 4 was the big thing that everyone got hyped for because that was the big announcement. Yeah, we are getting a Ninja Gaiden 4, in case you didn't know, Ash, if you want to take a moment to watch that trailer while I'm sitting here talking about it.
I mean, I never really played an awful lot of Ninja Gaiden in general, but that is so straight up a Ninja Gaiden 4, like the original series, Ninja Gaiden 4. Damn.
Ninja Gaiden 4.
I'll be damned. All right, I'll take a look at that real quick.
Yeah, and I believe Ninja Gaiden 2 Black is now available on Xbox Game Pass as well. Like they just were like, it's available, go. So that was exciting, getting a chance to play sort of I believe it's a remaster, or maybe it's just a straight full drop of the base game. I don't know. But that's available. We also got 11 and a half minutes of Doom: The Dark Ages.
Oh
which is
shit!
exciting.
There we go.
That got me hyped. That was the thing that had me most excited from that developer showcase. As we all know, lifelong Doom fan. First game I ever played. It's one of my comfort games, so I was super hyped for that. I think
That was
Esh.
the one. That was the one they showed a while back, where it's like basically
It's like
even more
medieval.
metal as fuck and medieval. And
Yeah.
yeah. It looked.
I
Bad
will
as hell when I
say,
saw it.
Esh, I know that you're not much of a shooter guy. This might be a decent one to get into for you, because it seems like they've because like Doom Eternal went very arcadey. It was very much about movement, which for people who aren't really shooter fans, getting into that kind of gameplay can be a little bit daunting. This one, they were like, we've stripped back the movement. It's less about gotta go fast and more you're a tank, just barrel through the field with your shield and everything like that. This might be one for you to check out. I think
it's more that
you
when I
dig
play
the
shooters, I worry that I can't hit shit. Like,
with Doom, it's not a problem. Just don't play it on console and you're fine.
Well,
that's the thing that I will say about most first-person shooters. Just don't play them on console.
Yeah, no, that's my experience as well. The few times I've played some, yeah,
console first. Like, don't get me wrong, there are some games that play pretty well on consoles, first-person shooters, but they will always be better on PC. I mean, with a mouse and keyboard. With one exception.
I get to playing a lot of shooters is obviously like shit like BioShock or Fallout, and those aren't really shooters in that sense. So moot point.
There is one series that I will grant an exception to it's better with mouse and keyboard every single time, and that is Halo. Halo is the one series that while I prefer it with mouse and keyboard, if you play Halo and you say you prefer controller, I'm not going to give you any flack. Any other series, I'm going to give you some shit because you're just playing it wrong.
It's funny how some genres just don't work in certain formats, right? Because I remember one of the first times I played Warcraft 2. Now we're way back to when I was a kid, you know?
Yeah.
That was the PlayStation version in my fucking like after school activity center.
Oh yeah.
And like ever since then, I've just had this vomit-inducing distaste for RTS games on console. Like what?
They didn't really. I would argue they didn't really do it right.
Probably.
But
it's just the idea of like, you know, town management, top view, a million resources, a million menus you have to navigate all the time with a freaking DualSense controller. No, a DualShock. Yeah, sorry.
DualSense PS5. I would say that they didn't really do RTS on console right. Arguably until Halo Wars. I would go even further and say until Halo Wars 2.
Oh, I would not know anything about that. I just remember playing it at the time and being like, you know, this sucks. Like, even as like an 11-year-old, just nah. This is
it's kind of like I also don't think that point and click adventures on consoles is like a real great way to go.
Which is hilarious because I still need to play it, but I did buy Clock Tower on the Switch, and I do intend to stream it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I am a Clock Tower enjoyer. He says with his reproduction of the English fan translation.
Yep.
Of Clock Tower sitting right here. This game sucks on SNES because using a D-pad to try to do the point and click stuff is awful.
I'm sure it's a lot better on Switch. I haven't tried it yet, but sure.
Yeah, that's another genre. Although they've made that genre they made work a lot easier, I think. But point is, I think the Doom series absolutely should be played on PC. I know that they come out on console, but I almost feel like you just shouldn't buy it on there unless you do not have a PC.
Yeah. Which a lot of people might not, like a gaming PC at least.
Yeah.
So,
although nowadays, I know with Xbox, a lot of Xbox games support mouse and keyboard now.
Yeah, well, there's always options.
And I think some on PS5, but it's fewer and far between because they really want you using their proprietary hardware.
Well, obviously.
But anyways, other stuff that was announced at the Xbox Developer Showcase. South of Midnight has an April 2025 release date.
Shit.
Yeah, that's from Compulsion Games, people who did We Happy Few, which was a game that I feel like it got like a lot of coverage when it first came out for like a day, and then nobody talked about it.
I remember, and this is years ago now. I remember seeing the trailers, and obviously being the kind of gamer I am, and loving indie horror games, and really liking the discrepancy between like colorful graphics and dark subject matter. I remember being really fucking into it and be like, this looks excellent. Then it happened. Then the reviews were middling, and then nobody spoke about it again after like 2 days.
I mean, I guess I shouldn't be saying anything because I have a copy of the game. I bought a copy of the game at launch, and I haven't even opened it yet.
I mean, I'm not saying like I don't know anything about whether or not it's good. I'm just remember that's what happened at the time, and it kind of made me, not play it because if people aren't talking about it at all, that's usually not a good sign. At least not for a game that had as much buzz as that.
I remember hearing that it was
they were going nuts with it.
A lot of people were talking about it at the time, and a lot of people were like, "This is good but flawed."
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah. But anyways, they have a new game coming out, South of Midnight, something that we've heard a bit about. This isn't like a new announcement or anything, but it does have an official release date of April 8th, 2025. Watching this trailer, it looks a lot more generic than We Happy Few did. It kind of just looks like your typical fantasy action game. But Southern Gothic is an interesting vibe that I can kind of get behind, I guess.
I haven't really heard anything about it, so
we're just gonna have to see. And then there was also Claire Obscure Expedition 33, an RPG for Xbox coming in April 2025, April 24th to be specific. I have nothing to say about this.
So when you say RPG, do you mean like Western action RPG style, or?
That's what it seems to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was about to say, if it was like classic turn-based RPG, that like never happens on Xbox, so that would actually have gotten my attention.
I would 100% be behind that. Yeah. I'm at the point now actually where I would say a good 75 to 80% more likely to buy your game if it's turn-based combat, if it's an RPG. Because I'm pretty firmly in the place of like, I want more games like that, so I'm going to support them by buying them, even if I don't ultimately wind up playing them.
Yeah, no, I can understand that.
I have quite the backlog of turn-based RPGs that I need to get to eventually.
One I've had for a while now that I just keep forgetting to play is actually Chrono Cross, and I know that's not like the best reviewed ever, but I want to play it because I love Chrono Trigger, obviously, and I've always been curious about Chrono Cross because you always hear about it, but you don't hear many specifics about it.
It's like, usually you hear people talk about Chrono Cross purely in relation to Chrono Trigger.
Exactly.
It is very rare where anyone will talk about Chrono Cross without talking about Chrono Trigger first.
Exactly.
People will be like, Chrono Trigger was great. Chrono Cross is pretty good too. But Chrono Trigger, though.
But that's the thing, because like you always hear about it. It always shows up on lists. It's also on like fun facts, sequels you didn't know existed. Which, although everybody knows Chrono Cross existed at this point,
I mean,
but it's also like I can never find anything specific about it. No one's ever talking about the characters. No one's ever talking about the story. No one's ever talking about anything.
Yeah.
And I bought it like 2 years ago, and I keep forgetting to play it. It's so dumb.
It is on my. I have a running list of games that I want to do videos on, and Chrono Cross is on there. Hilariously enough, I know that I was just saying that everyone talks about it in relation to Chrono Trigger. It is on the list immediately after Chrono Trigger.
Of course,
it's like either talk about one, then do another video talking about the other, or talk about them together. I don't know. I could talk about them together and also talk about, some people didn't know this exists. This is Chrono Trigger Crimson Echoes. It's a ROM hack fan game that didn't fully get a release because literally like a week before they were set to release the final version of it, they got hit with a cease and desist.
Yeah, I had a feeling.
Love when that happens. But their like beta 97 release came out, which is like, it is like, as the title would infer, like 97% complete. Like you can play it beginning to end, and everyone's like, that's probably about the closest we're ever going to get to release, which is what's on this cartridge.
I mean, that's a shame. Whatever.
That fan game pretty perfectly bridges the gap between Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross.
Oh.
So might
Because I always
include
understood it like they were more spiritual sequels than actual story sequels.
they exist in the same universe.
Okay.
There's elements of of them that touch on each other. And there was a did you ever hear about the Nintendo Satellaview?
Oh, the name rings a bell, but I can't really
that was that
that
add-on for the Super Famicom in Japan where there would be like daily broadcasts.
Oh,
and you
right.
would download things to it and you'd play it on there.
Yes, I've only heard about it briefly.
There was like a visual novel / radio play kind of thing, which I believe might be on the Radical Dreamers remaster of Chrono Cross.
I wouldn't know.
That is like a short story that does also do some of the bridging between Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross. Because they are largely standalone. You can, for the most part, play Chrono Cross without having played Chrono Trigger, and you can play Chrono Trigger and never touch Chrono Cross and still
like
have
a lot of people have,
like a lot of people have, and have an absolutely perfect, complete story. But there are connections that can be made.
All right.
Anyways,
cool.
How did we get on Chrono? I'm not complaining.
We're talking about turn-based RPGs and how we want more of them. Which reminds me, I still need to buy Dragon Quest 3, but whatever. Go on.
I do too. It's hard for me right now to drop full price for a game. That's why I haven't bought Dragon Quest 3 yet. I'm kind of waiting for a Steam sale or something for me to jump on it. And also, I haven't decided if I'm going to get it on Steam or if I'm going to get it on Switch.
Or Switch 2. Let's circle back to where we were going.
Well, that was going to be my segue because if I buy it on Switch, according to the Switch 2 announcement, I will be able to play it on my Switch 2.
Yes, thank God.
Yeah, let's get into the Switch 2 announcement. All we got for the Switch 2 reveal was just basically a hardware teaser.
Yeah.
Which, let's be honest, basically told us everything that we already knew from the leaks. They basically just confirmed that at least the physical portions of the leaks are true. They didn't speak to specs of the system. They didn't speak to specs of the screen. They didn't talk about anything with the dock, anything like that. All we have right now is just rumors and thoughts, and everyone's kind of just, feelings about the situation.
Yeah,
and nothing beyond the actual aesthetics of the system and the fact that we know that it's bigger.
Which that is nice because I don't necessarily think that a bigger screen is equal to a better console, but there are times where I wish the Switch was just a little bigger than it is.
It looks. I was watching the video trying to figure out what could I compare it to size wise. It looks about the size of a Steam Deck.
Yeah, that sounds
if I had to venture a guess, because the Steam Deck is bigger than a Switch by quite a bit. But it looks like roughly the size and the size step up that we see in the trailer there, which I think is the right way to go. I think that, and just the general aesthetics of the Switch 2 in general, and I know that a lot of people have already said this, but it looks like a lot of the modern handheld PCs that we're seeing, the ROG Ally, the Steam Deck, all of these devices, it looks very, very similar to one of those.
It does, and I'm actually a little bit on the fence about that. I appreciate the more rounded design it went with, especially the Joy-Cons actually look a lot more comfortable.
I'm still going to swap them out as soon as I can.
Oh, absolutely.
I hate Joy-Cons. I'm going to go out on a rail and say that my Joy-Cons, I never have to worry about my Joy-Cons getting drift because I never fucking use them.
Yeah,
I think I used my Joy-Cons. The only period of time that I used my Joy-Cons were the 2 months that I had a Switch before the Split Pad Pros came out.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, I've had a couple of different third-party ones because fuck you, I'm not paying $150 for a new set that will just drift within a month anyway. Like mine did out of the box, by the way.
Oof.
I got Joy-Con drift a month in, and I was going insane playing Zelda.
Rough.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I got it late. Granted,
I did too. I think mine was a year after release or something like that.
I think 2 in my case. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Point is,
actually, mine was so late that when I bought my Switch, like a week later, they announced the upgraded version with the longer battery life.
Right. That sucks.
I was like, oh, thanks, guys.
But where I was going with that was it's not even about like the aesthetics themselves. The Joy-Cons do look a little more comfortable. I'm still gonna use a controller, especially if the Pro controller is compatible with it, because I finally have one. And that thing is wonderful and lasts forever.
See, I never dock mine. So my Switch has been docked, I think maybe 2 or 3 times in its existence.
I also have, like I said, a pair of way better like third-party Joy-Cons that are way more enjoyable to hold. But the thing I was going for with the aesthetics of it, I like the rounded design. It looks like any other new piece of tech that gets more rounded over time instead of jagged. I'm still not a fan of the magnetic way they're supposed to stick, but whatever. We'll see how that works. My main problem is actually the complete lack of color.
See, I like the lack of color.
Which is fair. I'm not saying it's ugly or anything. It's just that Nintendo, for me, usually signals a certain level of like.
So when I bought my Switch, I went to like 3 or 4 different stores on the day that I was buying it because I refused to buy the red and blue Switch because I was like, this is horrendously ugly. I'm an adult. Give me fucking gray. Like, that's what I want.
Fair enough. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying that
I know it's a personal thing.
Of course, when I think of Nintendo, I think of whimsy first and foremost, because Nintendo is a company that focuses on like fun and on being engaging, even if the game itself is not necessarily like the newest, hottest piece of tech. Yeah. Which is also why back when the Wii came out, I was also like, this is just a block of cheese, man. What are you doing? Why is it white? Why does nothing else? Of course, then you think about the Super Nintendo, which is just a great brick, but you get my point.
I think that really just comes down to the way that we individually view Nintendo. Because you have like, nostalgic connections to Nintendo.
Not nostalgic, because I didn't own one as a kid, but
at the very least, you as you say yourself, you connect Nintendo with like whimsy and with the colorful and with the very like, I'm gonna say kid friendly, but I don't mean that in a derogatory way.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah. I see Nintendo as a giant corporation who just wants to steal our money.
Well,
to me, I'm like, I don't immediately see Nintendo and think fun platformer because I don't play those games.
No, that's fair.
Like, I don't when I look at my Nintendo Switch, I don't think Mario. I don't think Zelda. I don't think in those games. I think the closest thing I think of Pokemon. Yeah, Let's be honest. My Switch is basically a Pokemon machine, and it always was going to be.
Every stream. So,
but I look at that thing and I'm like, it's a piece of gaming hardware, just like any of the others. I do not put it in a separate category. I don't put it on a pedestal like some people do. It's just
talked about a pedestal. I just think the color.
Well, no, I'm not saying that you do. I'm just saying that like I don't look at Nintendo hardware any differently than I look at Microsoft or Sony hardware. Nah. And so like I don't need it to stand out. I don't need it to be flashy. I'm not a flashy person. I don't need shit to stand out as is. And so like
particularly flashy, but
bright colors are fairly flashy. Point is, I like blacks and grays and browns, and that's just my own personal preference. So the Switch 2 kind of going lighter on the color. To be honest with you, people are like, I've seen people online be like, I wish it had more color than just the rings and just like the connector point. Yeah. I wish it didn't even have that. Like that makes to me that looks cheap. Like I almost would rather it
whatever.
I would almost rather it be more colorful in general because the amount that they have on the system makes it look cheap to me.
Well, I can't say I agree, but that's totally fair. Either way.
Well, because so I have this device right here. This is an Anbernic RG450X. I believe that's what it is. Yeah, 450 or 405M, sorry. This is an emulation handheld. This one in particular doesn't do this, but some of them will look like this. They'll look black, and then when you turn them on, the rings around the analog sticks will light up red and blue. And that's what it reminded me of, and that's why my brain went, that looks cheap.
Okay, fair
because
enough.
I was thinking of these cheap, like, handhelds. Even though
Fair
this
enough,
was
dude.
not a cheap handheld, but
I get you.
You understand where I'm coming from. You touched upon something that I do want to touch upon, which is the magnetic connector.
Yeah, I'm a little on the fence about those.
That is 100% going to be a point of failure. The first kid who just, and this is something that they've already ran into with the current Switch, is people will like wrench on it.
Yep.
The first kid that does that is breaking that connector.
Yep.
Especially the connector piece that actually slots into the Joy-Con, that's snapping right off.
Isn't it funny how, this is just an aside, isn't it funny how basically every iteration of Nintendo in the last 15 years or so, 20 years almost, have had controller issues? Like when the Wii came out, they somehow didn't account for people throwing that fucking thing all over the place. The strap was a later addition. Think about that for a couple seconds.
Yeah.
They actually thought people wouldn't accidentally throw that thing across the goddamn room. How? How do you not see that coming? And then we have, the Wiimote itself and whatever. Then we have the Wii U, where they're like, do we want the Wiimote or do we want the pad? We can't really decide on which one. Like,
well, and also
do both. And then we have the Joy-Con drift, and oh my god.
the Wii U gamepad has the battery life of a fucking potato.
Oh yeah.
Like,
no,
that goddamn
sucked.
thing runs out so fast. And then like it also like will run out if it's not on.
Yeah,
like,
no, it sucks.
The thing that I love, and I'm gonna give Nintendo some love for this. Where is it? I don't have my 3DS on me. I thought I had my 3DS on me.
Oh well.
Anyways, my 3DS, I hadn't turned it on in months because I moved and like everything got. I hadn't turned it on since Portland Retro, which was back in October.
Right.
September. Anyways, I hadn't turned it on, and I also hadn't plugged it in. I was like, this thing's gonna be dead as shit. So I ordered a new charger for it, because I don't know where my charger was, so I just ordered a charger. And I was like, okay, I want to play some Pokemon, so I'm gonna do this because it's a modded 3DS. I was like, I want to play Pokemon Blaze Black on actual hardware.
Nice.
But just for shits and giggles, I was like, I'm gonna turn this bitch on and I'm gonna see how it goes. It had full battery.
Nice.
And the thing is that like Nintendo somehow has managed to do that with most of their consoles that have internal batteries. My regular DS Lite that's back here, I hadn't turned that thing on for a year, but I was getting ready to sell it, and I was just like, I'm just gonna see how this goes. Turns it on full battery.
Damn.
Even still, it was still in sleep mode.
I mean, I haven't turned on my 3DS in actual years. I have no idea if it's remotely.
That bitch will still have power. Bet me money.
That's actually what I've been impressed with, because it took me a while to get a Switch Pro controller. I actually got one for my birthday a while ago. That thing lasts way longer than I expected it to.
Yeah.
I've had to charge it like maybe twice in 6 months. And granted, I'm not like constantly playing on the Switch. So whatever. But
then
that's a long fucking time.
Think about all those situations that we just talked about with like great battery life. What the fuck happened to the Wii U gamepad?
Yeah, that was wild. That was wild. I remember.
I like the Wii U gamepad. I'm one of those weirdos who I think it's ergonomic as hell. Like, it's just comfortable to hold. No, and I think it's a great idea.
It is. We talked about it last time, I believe, actually. Like,
yeah, we did.
The Wii U, I wouldn't call it a failed console, but was definitely a prototype. I'll never argue that it's, some kind of misunderstood masterpiece.
It was the Switch 0.5.
I'll never argue that it's some misunderstood masterpiece, because it's not. No. It was a middle point that shouldn't have made it to retail in some respects. I still enjoyed it. I still think a lot of things about it were really fucking cool. And I definitely loved having it, so whatever.
I think
the gamepad was a great idea.
The Wii U is going to be one of those oddities that
there's going to be some AVGN style dude making a video about it in like 5 years.
100%. It's already getting, we're already seeing videos from creators that are saying like, hey, the Wii U like didn't get a fair shake, and like we should reanalyze the Wii U and take a look at its library and see like all the cool things it could been done with it. I know that Scott the Woz has always been like a very large, advocate for the Wii U.
I've actually never seen a single video of his. Now that I think about
That's
it,
surprising because, like, I feel like you would vibe with his shit.
probably I've just never gotten around to it.
Well, maybe you should because he's got some good stuff.
Maybe
But anyways, his video on game collecting is a video that I show to whenever anybody asks me about the hobby of game collecting, and they're like, I just don't get it. I show them his video on game collecting.
Oh, okay, well, that's cool.
But anyways, one thing about the Switch 2 that wasn't confirmed in the video, but it looks like it might be the case, and honestly, I really hope is the case. You remember when we were talking about it last week, we were talking about our hopes and our wishes for the Switch 2, and I mentioned that it would be cool if there was like a Wii U mode where you could use the Switch as a gamepad and the dock, you'd be like beaming your game to it. So it doesn't seem like we're getting that, but it seems like they might have another way of achieving the things that I wanted from that.
Okay, you're gonna have to fill me in here.
So during the video, when you see the side of the Joy-Con, there's this little like hole cut out at the side of the rail with something in it that nobody can really make out what exactly it is.
Oh, right, yes.
But it looks like an optical sensor from a mouse.
Oh.
And in the video, there appears to be an attachment that looks like the rail cover that you would have with like 2-player, but the bottom is cut out. And during that part of the video, it's sliding on its side. So people are theorizing, what if the Joy-Cons can be used like mice?
I did not pick up on that at all, but that would be super cool if that's the case, actually.
Where it's like turned on its side and you can like move it around like a mouse on a surface. That would allow you to do like Super Mario Maker, which again was my was my argument for the dual screen thing.
Or Clock Tower in the
or Clock Tower. Again, we were talking about games that should be played with mouse and keyboard. You could theoretically do that if you have one Joy-Con being used as a mouse and the other one you're using with the regular joystick. That's what it kind of looks like they might be alluding to. That might be the gimmick with the Joy-Cons, because it does seem like they have removed the IR port.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting to be sure. Now, like you said, we don't know a lot about specs. The theory is still that it's like a PS4 Pro, basically. A portable one, which we talked about last time. I'm relatively fine with that. What I'm not super fine with is, and I know we're going to get more in the next few months. This thing is coming out in April and May, if I understand correctly.
We're getting more information about it in April.
Oh, okay.
We don't have an actual release date.
Fair enough. Okay. I just saw a list
probably
of
be November.
dates and regions, whatever. It doesn't matter. Yeah, for Christmas and all that. But so far, because I was curious, new console announced. That usually means launch titles. Let's actually go to the thing we buy these things for, the games. There's almost nothing. At least not much information yet.
Yeah.
Which that's a little bit of a red flag.
So I'm not worried about that right now.
I know they'll come, but right now it just looks kind of barren.
So here's my thought on this reveal at all. I think the Nintendo's hand was forced. I think they did not intend on showing us even this reveal this early.
And then the leak happened.
Yeah, I think that this was meant to be, because it felt very much like this is meant to be the beginning of a much longer discussion where they talk more about the Switch 2 and not just something they shadow drop at like 5 a.m. and go, here's the Switch 2, guys.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I feel like because at the end of it, it says like, hey, we're going to have a Nintendo Switch 2 Direct in April. I think that was their, I think that was their original date that they were planning on announcing the Switch 2.
Probably. That makes a lot more sense.
Showing it off. So I think that we didn't see any games. We haven't heard about anything with launch games or anything like that, because they're keeping everything under wraps until April. And that was always their plan from the beginning.
That would make a lot more sense, because I misunderstood that list of dates I saw then, which, okay, that's on me, whatever.
Yeah.
I thought it was very, very quick after a console reveal, so I was like, what the hell are they doing?
Again, I think the system will probably come out in like November would be my
to the
guess.
holidays, which is which makes sense because I looked up a list of like what do we know will come out for the Switch 2. And
watch them
Yeah.
pull a Sega Saturn on us in April, where we get the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, and then at the end of the Direct they're just like, oh yeah, by the way, it's in stores now.
That would be amazing.
Which is what Sega did. Which is what Sega did with the Saturn at E3. They were like, "Hey, we're announcing the Saturn. By the way, go buy it."
Yeah, that is not going to happen.
Well, no, yeah, because it was considered one of the biggest business blunders in video game history.
And
do not do that.
And that's why Sega doesn't make consoles anymore.
It's a cool idea, and it's a great way to make headlines. Do not do that.
Nope. That's a bad idea.
I would say though, Nintendo probably has the infrastructure in place to do that.
Yeah, I don't think
that being said, we would 100
release.
That being said, we would 100% know that they were doing that beforehand because there's no way that information would not leak.
Well, especially not nowadays. Like
Joe Schmo at fucking GameStop would post a video being like, "Hey, why are we getting boxes of Switch 2s?"
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what happened with these leaks just a couple weeks ago. But I was looking at it and I was like, okay, so what do we know is actually coming out for the Switch? Aside from like an assumption that there will be a proper Mario Kart 9 finally, which whatever, if you're into that, that's cool.
I'm just expecting I'm expecting Mario Kart 8 Ultimate, where it's just Mario Kart 8 Ultimate with the 25 track pack included.
Who knows? It might fucking be, because I'm just so amused by the way that game refuses to die. And I mean, I like Mario Kart 8. Don't get me wrong; it's just hilarious to me.
It was
I don't
okay.
play it very often. I don't play it very often because I don't play kart racers.
I'm still very much a double dash or nothing.
Double dash is fun. I used to play that in 10th grade.
Best one by far.
I've told you about this before. I went to this school where we had these new smart boards that had like a projector. So we actually used to plug the GameCube into that. So we were basically playing games on like a 50, not a 50, bigger, like 100-inch screen. Actually,
we got those smart boards like my senior year of high school, so we didn't get a chance to do anything cool with them.
That sounds about right. But every weekend we would like plug in the GameCube to that and just have a blast. And I distinctly remember an entire fucking Saturday being spent doing nothing but playing Mario Kart Double Dash.
We did play Halo on one. Because my senior year, one of my classes, I helped organize a Halo 2 tournament called Halo for Hunger.
What a great
it was a charity thing where you could either pay, I think it was like $5 for an entry fee, or you could bring, I think it was like 3 cans of food.
I mean, that's a great idea. And I love
and then we gave it all to a local food bank. And one of the TVs that people could play on was the smart board.
Nice.
And then like we had a bunch of, other TVs and everything was system linked. I miss system link Halo too.
But yeah, no, I was looking at that and like, let's see what happens in April then when we get a bigger announcement, because let's put it this way. I don't regret getting my PS5, and I was fully intending on getting it on release back in the day. Then, the shortage happened. And that was mostly like a principle thing, because I've never been the guy who got the new thing right as it was new.
Yeah.
So at the time, that was a conscious choice. Like, I know there's not going to be a huge library of games, but I want it. Just for once in my life, I want to have this thing when it's new. And then 6 months passed, but fuck that. With the Switch 2, I'm going to need to see some fucking launch titles, man. If we get another PS5 situation where for the first 2 years it's nothing but remasters, I'm going to be cross.
What would you want to see? Like, perfect world, what like franchises or like, maybe Nintendo franchises, maybe third-party franchises, what would you like to see on a Switch 2 launch? What would make it an instant buy for you?
Eternal Darkness 2, but that's not happening. So
right.
But my point is, like, I actually don't know, because in the last year and a half, there's been a mainline entry of like a pretty good chunk of their big franchises. We got Super Mario Bros. Wonder. We just recently got Echoes of Wisdom, Legend of Zelda. That's like, 6 months ago? It's not very long time ago. So neither of those feel like they're going to happen. No. It feels like their big flagship thing is going to be, Pokemon Legends C or whatever the hell they're calling it. Which, okay, that's fine, but what the hell are you going to do for the first year or so? We need like a big title. And I just don't see that happening.
I think of any of their franchises, just because we haven't seen it in a while, I think that a mainline Mario could be the case.
But it's just so recent that they did Wonder. But you mean a mainline 3D Mario?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
And
we haven't had that
Odyssey
since
sequel.
Odyssey. So yeah.
All of that being said, they could drop a 2D Mario pretty easily at this point.
They could, but it would feel weird when they just released Wonder, which was like, it was a 2D Mario, but it was also very, very different in like tone, and it was breaking with their trend of like playing it way too safe. I mean, I haven't played it much myself, but just watching it, I can tell. Okay, they heard the people cry. They heard the like, you've made the same game every year for like 10 years now. Please, for the love of God, try something else. And they did. So
if they,
now I'm like, what the hell?
if they, with like some of their main franchises, wanted to guarantee me a buy, which is hard. If they dropped like Super Mario Maker 3.
Oh yeah, I would not hold my
breath,
dude.
I do not feel like would be that difficult for them to do. They could honestly just do new Super Mario, or they could just do Super Mario Maker 2, add in some more pieces and some new themes, and call it Super Mario 3, Super Mario Maker 3.
I can see where you're going with that. I doubt that's going to happen, personally.
Yeah. But I kind of, a part of me sort of feels like Nintendo's done with Super Mario Maker.
Probably for a while at least, because like, you know.
I mean, I think that if I was running Nintendo, I would be every new generation gets one Super Mario Maker. That's it. They get one.
You know what would be cool, and they're not going to do this, if they finally, like, if they use the Switch 2 and the fact that they just released the Zelda, just released the Mario, if they use that to finally release some new games in some of the franchises that people have been crying about for years.
They're like, listen, our launch lineup, we've got
Star Fox
new
3.
Star Fox, we've got new F-Zero.
I mean, it's not gonna happen, but it would be
if
amazing
they drop
if they did.
new F-Zero, I think the internet's head would explode.
Probably. That would be like almost Half-Life 3 levels of hype right there. That is insanity.
Yeah, probably pretty close. Well, I think that it would be less because we all collectively expect there to eventually be a Half-Life 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think the universe has given up on F-Zero.
They have. Yeah, like people are, it's one of those things that people are like saying for a joke every time a Nintendo Direct happen. All right, guys, get hyped for F-Zero. Which, again, I don't even care about F-Zero. But
Captain Falcon has appeared in more Smash Bros. Games than there have been F-Zero games.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of jacked up.
It's kind of reaching the Mother 3 levels, right? Come on, everybody get hype. Mother 3.
That would be the launch. That would be the launch game that would break the internet if they were like Mother 3 HD remake. And it's getting localized for English.
Oh my god, a Link's Awakening style remake of
or
3.
They could troll the shit out of the world, do the HD remake, don't release it in English.
Oh my god. I think that might actually start a world war.
They're like, we're releasing Mother 3, we've remade it, it's all nice and pretty and up to modern standards. North America, you're not getting it.
Or if they want to be really mean, hey, we're releasing an HD remake of Mother. No, not Mother 3, just Mother, the first one.
Yeah, Earthbound Zero. Or Earthbound Beginnings.
That would be funny. That would be really
honestly
funny.
if they released like an Earthbound collection, even if it was just ports of the games and like, but they were properly, localized.
Yeah. I think all over
that. They could get away with that as a launch title. And it's like, this doesn't need to be a launch title. This doesn't need to be on the Switch too.
No.
It would still sell 1 billion copies.
Ironically, the only time I actually played Earthbound was on the Wii U. And I'm thinking about it because it was on the shop there for a while.
One of my big gamer confessions is that I've never beaten Earthbound.
I did beat.
I beat Mother 3. Yeah, I beat the fan translation of Mother 3,
which I haven't.
And I had a great time with it. But I never finished Earthbound.
That is a bit of a shame. You should do that. It's a great
I know
game.
it's been on my list for a long time. It's one that I definitely do want to go back and revisit.
Mm.
Because what I played probably about half of it, and I had a really really great time with it, and then life just got in the way and stopped me from playing.
It happens.
Typical, typical story when it comes to RPGs. Like we all experienced that at some point.
So I'm just looking at, this is for fun. This is purely for a gaff, but I just looked up list of Nintendo franchises just to see what the most unlikely, insane thing they could do would be. How hilarious would it be if we got like a Kid Icarus as a launch title? I would love it, but that would be hilarious. It's not happening, but it would be hilarious.
That one.
Because, like, has there even been a Kid Icarus game since the 3DS when they made, like, Uprising? I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's just done.
Okay. Picture this.
What's up?
Nintendo Switch 2 Direct happens.
Mm-hmm.
They're sitting there and they've announced all these games. They've announced the specs of the system. Everything's great. And then they're like, but just one more thing. And what you see is just a palm tree. Then a yo-yo. And it's Star Tropics 3.
Holy shit. I know at least one YouTuber who would absolutely cream themselves instantly if that happened.
I think that there would be like a small amount of people who would be losing their minds, and then the rest of the world would just go, what the hell is that?
What are you talking about? What the fuck is a Star Tropics?
Like, what is that?
That would rock.
The mysterious Murasame Castle. Let's get a remake of that.
Why not? Okay, just go all the way, man. You know what I would like? What I would genuinely like? And like, this is not a joke.
Let's get a Chibi Robo sequel.
That would also be fun, but no. I was thinking like an actual Wario Land game. I would not be opposed to Nintendo revisiting Wario as like a platforming character.
Yeah, because it seemed like, so we had Wario Land 4. I think that was the last one that was on DS.
That sounds about right, I believe.
Then he just started doing WarioWare, and that became Wario's thing. And then they just kind of like, that's all Wario was.
Yeah.
From then on.
To me. Because
so yeah, going Wario Land 5 or whatever would be great.
He's sort of become their bullshit character, like he's just, if we have some random wacky little idea that we don't really know what to do with and we don't really have a franchise for it, just slap Wario on it. Kind of like they did with Kirby for a while.
Which is funny because Waluigi is right there.
Yeah.
And they haven't used him for dick. Like, instead of slapping Wario on another random game, slap Waluigi on there.
Yeah.
So that the like three people who are legitimate Waluigi fans can have something to claim.
Hey man, I would actually be all over a Waluigi game just to see what they do with him.
Like, or give Princess Daisy something that she can call her own.
Yes. We've talked about this before. Way back when Luigi's Mansion happened and he got like a whole new gameplay style. I really kind of want that for each of the characters. I want Wario to have his adventure, and he does. He has the whole dashing thing and being invulnerable and whatever.
Farting.
Well, whatever damages him is what you use to solve puzzles. Like, that's really funny. And now they have Princess Peach. She had the costumes and stuff, which is her thing. Basically,
and her vibe scepter.
Well, let's not talk about the vibe scepter, but My point is, wouldn't it be great if they did that? If like every character had their own gameplay style? Because they kind of already have done that. There's Yoshi's Island, which is like its own thing. Of course, we haven't seen any of that since Woolly World, I believe, or Crafted World.
Yeah, but at least that means we at least got a Yoshi Switch game.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Can't say for some characters.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Wouldn't it be great? Like, Waluigi, find something he can do that's his own thing. Peach, Daisy, find something she can do that's her own thing. Toad, it's already Captain Toad, I guess. But
yeah, I was gonna say, I know that Captain Toad and Toad are two different characters, but they're effectively the same character.
It's Toad. It's a Toad.
It's that you could put any Toad into that gameplay style and it still makes sense.
I genuinely think that would be a great idea if they found something unique for each character to do.
Let's give Daisy a hardcore multiplayer
she gets
Milsim shooter. No, like a Call of Duty.
Oh
Let's
yeah,
put Daisy in that. Let's give Waluigi the Soulsborne because that dude
yeah.
looks like he could roll around.
Actually, with Daisy, like, let's go even further. Let's make it completely ridiculous. Let's make it like something like Devil's Third or something, where it's just completely over the top, so she can just scream her head off and shoot everything inside.
Realistically, do you know what I could actually see Daisy having?
Sports games.
Well, I mean, she already appears in those. Like,
I
that's
know.
dumb. I think that if they were to bring Nintendogs back, make
Oh,
Daisy like the Nintendogs character. Like maybe she like watches over like a dog like boarding house, because you know how there's like boarding houses for dogs for when people want to go on vacation. Maybe she does that, and so playing as her, you have to like take care of dogs.
I mean,
And
there would still
cats
have
and
to be
pets.
some kind of adventure element to it, but
I mean, not necessarily. She's
it's
just
teeth.
she's trying to run a functioning business. I'm talking about just making a pet boarding house like tycoon game.
What, give that to Paulina. She's the business lady. Oh, whatever the fuck her name.
But
was.
she's already a mayor of New Donk City. She's got a lot going on.
Give her a sim game.
Yeah, give her like Sim City.
Nintendo hired these men.
And only joking, Daisy is secretly Doom Guy. No, that's Isabel from Animal Crossing.
Yeah, we all know. We all learned that.
And she's not the Doom Slayer. She's just friends with the Doom Slayer.
Yeah.
We all saw the Chalk Eaters music video. We know how this works.
That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen, like the gaming community come together on. As far as I'm concerned, that was Barbenheimer before Barbenheimer.
Yeah, that was gaming Barbenheimer. Was
the funniest thing.
Yeah, Infinite Horizons is what everyone was calling it.
Yes, it was so funny. It was so legitimately hilarious and so wholesome at the same time.
Yeah.
God damn, those were great times.
And it actually did. I remember I was reading an article about it. It did actually translate to sales for both games.
Yeah.
Because awesome. You were seeing so many people going to go buy Animal Crossing who then picked up Doom Eternal and vice versa.
Yeah.
Partially because of the meme and also partially because they were like, well, they both came out today. Might as well get both.
And partially because, we're all going to be stuck inside for a while. Let's find some games to play.
Yeah. It's kind of like when, so this is one of my favorite stories. Big Guitar Hero player, been a big Guitar Hero player for like a long time. Back when I was in college, Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock was coming out.
Oh, hell yeah.
And this is back when they were still doing midnight releases. And so I went to a GameStop and like I brought this like collection of games I was going to trade in to buy the game at midnight. They let me trade in my games before like they closed the store, and then they closed the store. I had to go wait in line and then all that sort of stuff.
Oh, that was nice.
There were a ton of people at this GameStop. Just a metric ass ton of people. And I was like, wow, I didn't think that all these people were here for Warriors of Rock. No, I was the only person there for Warriors of Rock. Everybody else was there for Dead Rising 2, which I didn't realize was releasing on the same day. The people in line, they all agreed. They were like, look, there's one person here for Guitar Hero. We're going to be nice. We're going to let him go first because like he's the only person just picking up this game. I got in there and they told me how much money I had in my account. I managed to get both Warriors of Rock and Dead Rising 2 without intending to. I was just like, oh, I have enough? Okay, well, I'll get both. And I even got the package with the guitar. That's how many games that I turned in.
You should have walked out there with like Guitar Hero under your arm and then just like hold up Dead Rising 2 in front of all the people who were so nice to you.
I got both games. I purposefully did hide that I also got Dead Rising 2 because I did kind of feel like it was a little bit of a dick move.
A little bit.
That I also got Dead Rising 2. I went in there with no intention of getting Dead Rising 2. I got up to the counter and the person was like, you have enough. Like, you could do it. And like, we have enough copies. Like, we're going to be fine. And I was like, okay. But when I walked out, I had Dead Rising 2 close to my body and I was holding the guitar covering the game.
That would have been such a shit. It's like when people... It would have been like when people ask if they can cut in line and then their whole family comes by once you let them.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Like 5 cards and you're like, motherfucker, you were holding a carton of milk 5 seconds ago.
It was really great sitting there in line talking to everybody, and everybody was super nice, super chill. I miss midnight releases for that reason, just because like it was so awesome just standing in line talking to people about
Unfortunately, I've never really experienced that.
Yeah, you live kind of out in the middle of nowhere.
First of all, I've always lived a little bit rurally, so I've never really been near it. My family doesn't really understand video games. Plus, I'm not sure those kind of midnight releases were ever really a thing here for games, at least. I do remember them being a thing for stuff like, Harry Potter book releases and stuff like that.
And we still do. We will still do, although we don't see it as much, but we still do like midnight like movies. Although nowadays, at least here in the US, I don't know if they do it in other regions, we'll have what are called preview showings literally the day before. Usually it used to be the preview showings would start at like 8 p.m., but they've been steadily getting earlier and earlier. It's like actually at the point now where like I will go watch a movie like at like noon the day before the movie actually comes out.
That's right.
Like it's just happening. But with games these days, the only like midnight releases that you really see anymore are for like Pokemon.
Yeah, probably.
Like that Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock for the longest time was the last midnight release that I went to. I went to Mass Effect 3, which was funny. I went to the Mass Effect 3 midnight release, even though I bought it digitally, but I went with a friend who bought it physically. So I was there going, I'm not actually buying the game. I already have it. It's at home installing right now. But between those, Mass Effect 3, the next one that I went to was Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Because I went to the midnight release of that because I pre-ordered the dual pack with both games. And so I was like, me and my buddy who had pre-ordered just Violet, we're like, yeah, we could wait until the next day. Or we got nothing else better to do. Let's go to the midnight release.
Why not? I can see it.
That was hella packed. But I had gone to midnight releases for like I went to God of War 3 midnight release. I went to Alien Isolation's midnight release, which I guess was actually after Mass Effect 3. So that was the last one that I went to.
Must have been.
That one pissed me off to no end. Not because of the midnight release itself, but this was when I was like, modern gaming is dead. Because I went to the midnight release. I bought that game. I was super hyped. My friend came with me. He was super hyped. We were like, okay, we're going to play this game all night. We're going to get scared shitless. Got home, popped it into my Xbox. It had to install.
Yeah.
It took 3 fucking hours to install. My buddy was like, fuck it, I'm just going home. I went to sleep. It just ruined that night. I was just like, this is lame.
Oh, man. That sucks so much ass.
That's when I was like, modern gaming is dead. That's it.
Oh, man.
As soon as I have to install the game on my modern console. That's the thing, is that consoles, I'm not supposed to have to install games. No. That's a PC thing.
Yeah.
And like, I'm fine with it on PC. That's the way it's always been.
I hate that shit so much.
And I understand why.
I had to cancel a stream once because my game had to update, and it turned out it took like an hour and a half.
Jesus.
It's like, fucking god damn it.
I understand game installations from like a technical standpoint. But I still don't like it.
Oh no. I don't know if you ever we're going off on a big tangent here, but I don't know if you ever engaged with.
Well, we're basically done talking about the Switch too. It's okay.
There's not much else to say.
We got our thoughts out.
Yeah. Did you ever engage much with Brentalfloss?
A little bit, not a lot.
Because years ago, and I think it was actually around the time for the Switch or something. It might have been before that. Actually, whatever. It doesn't matter. He made a like Schoolhouse Rock style song called "Don't Buy the Console at Launch," which is fucking hilarious because it's exactly that. It's some kid going like, "Look at all these cool new consoles coming out. I'm gonna save up my allowance and buy them all." And then this little Super Nintendo pops up and it's like, "Back in the 90s when you bought a new system, it was basically ready to go." It's so fucking funny.
I think to me, since the Xbox 360, I have been pretty fervently don't buy at launch, just because those launch models of systems are going to be broken.
Also, unfortunately, the standard has become there's like maybe one game for the first year. So,
it's true. Yeah, and, which I blame the PS3 for that, because you remember the launch of the PS3? How just
I remember PS3 has no games. Remember the
Like,
PS3 has no games memes?
yeah. My buddy Owen got a PS3 shortly after launch. He got it at Christmas after launch. And for the longest time, the only game he had was Genji Day of the Blade, which that's an awful game.
That sucks. I mean,
And
that's how I felt about
so
the...
he was like, for the first like year that he had that system, he was like, this is a PS2 with an HDMI output.
Yep.
Yeah. Because he was just playing his PS2 games on it. That was like,
that's kind of... When I got my PS5, I was actually holding off on playing Resident Evil 8 until I had a PS5. Because I was like, if I'm getting the PS5 anyway, there's no good reason for me to buy the PS4 version of that game. And Miles Morales, for that matter. And I'm not saying I regret doing that, but it does mean that I bought those two when I finally got the fucking console. Finally, half a year later. And then there was like a year where I was just, there's nothing I want with it. Like, nothing's coming out for it. Well, I did get Ghostwire Tokyo, which I like. I know it's not a great game, but I enjoyed it also because I like yokai shit, so I was invested regardless. It's a fine game, don't get me wrong, but for a whole year, that was like the 3 games that existed on it for me.
I will say, even now for me, the PS5's just library in general has kind of been a dud for me.
It has.
Just because like there are 3 games that I care about on the PS5, and 2 of them, okay, one of them came out on PC. It's out now. Yeah. One of them is coming out in 4 days, which I want to talk about this because there's something weird going on with this. We're going to touch on that in a moment. And then the third one is NCAA football, which doesn't release on PC. And like, I've just come to terms with that. And but I'm okay with that because that's one of those games that I play that once every like 3 or 4 years. So like, if I don't have that, it's fine, whatever.
Before you start, I just really want to answer 2 questions I'm being asked here.
Okay.
I'm assuming these are for me. Yes, very much so. And I'm planning a short video that's related to Spider-Man because of
it's going to be rad. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you. This is one of my favorite jokes in any of my my videos.
The Stone Protectors video.
Yeah, the Stone Protectors, when it's like they have to come up with a catchphrase and they just keep saying like C words. And then I'm there like, colonoscopy, chlamydia. One of my favorite gags. Actually, my late friend Bravery pretty much came up with that for me. Big shout outs to you. Miss you every day, buddy. But that is one of my favorites. I really like that. Sorry, I just saw them in the chat and I didn't want to ignore them.
Yeah, that's fair.
What you were saying.
That's classic joke. Anyways, let's talk about Spider-Man 2 on the PC. Sure. And the weird situation that's going on with that.
I have not paid attention, so you're going to have to fill me in.
So it has a release date of January 30th. So that's 4 days from now.
Yeah.
Pre-orders haven't opened for it yet. For a game that we know is going to have pre-orders, because on the Steam page it has, here are the pre-order bonuses.
Okay.
But pre-orders aren't open for it yet. We don't have the minimum or recommended specs. They haven't released that. And outside of the one trailer that they put out announcing that they were doing this port, they have said nothing about it. It has gotten no marketing. It's gotten no push. It's got nothing. Sony has been radio silent on it.
That's really weird, because for a moment I was like, maybe they don't expect it to sell, but that's bullshit. Of course they do.
Yeah.
What the hell? That is odd. That is I haven't paid attention at all. That is really weird. I don't know what to say to that. Like, that's bizarre.
Oh, I guess the Insomniac Games like Twitter has said a few things, but all they've said is they put out a tweet of like 7 days ago saying like, hey, it's on the Steam store and it's launching on the 30th. That's all they said. And then they did tweet out, we understand many of you have been eagerly awaiting more information about the PC version of the game. Please hold a little longer while we sort out some final details. Bitch, you've got 4 days until the game is supposed to come out. If you haven't hammered out the final details already, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, that's really strange.
Yeah. So
it's funny
what is going on?
Yeah, it's funny when stuff like that, or when a game you've been waiting for just randomly goes like, this is the opposite situation, right? When a game you're waiting for and you never really had a date and you're just like, all right, I'll hear about it when I hear about it. And then all of a sudden you open Steam and it's like, oh, by the way, it comes out in 5 days. What?
Or even better, when it's like a game that you were looking forward to, but you never knew the launch date, and then you find out it came out like a couple of weeks ago.
That's happened to me because, with all my indie games, I can't always keep up with when they release. And Steam usually lets me know like the second they release.
Yeah, well, because if you have something wish listed, it'll tell you when it's available.
But there have been times where that fucked up somehow, I guess. And I didn't even realize something was out until a sale like a month later. Where I'm like, what
almost ran into that problem with, not really a problem, but I almost ran into that with Dynasty Warriors Origins. Because I forgot the date so I had every intention of buying the deluxe, of pre-ordering the deluxe edition.
Mm-hmm.
Comes with a bunch of cool stuff. It's great. I'm a big fan of Dynasty Warriors, so I was all over it anyways. But it also came with 3 days of early access.
Huh.
And I wanted those 3 days of early access. And I almost forgot that it was a thing. And then I was like, sitting there thinking to myself, I was like, wait, isn't that going to be a thing? I should probably I forgot when the game was coming out, and I went and looked, and it was an hour before the early access was going to start.
Holy shit. That was like
so I really quickly pre-ordered the game, and I was like, oh shit.
That's like when you wake up 5 minutes before your alarm when you have an important doctor's appointment or something.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, so I did manage to get into it. By the way, Dynasty Warriors Origins is fantastic. I'm still playing it. It is a long-ass game. Admittedly, I might be making it longer for myself because I'm trying to do everything.
I'm literally experiencing something like that, right? Well, I did because I beat the game today. I just bought yet another of my indie games called Dead of Darkness, which is basically 2D Resident Evil. And
I've heard of it.
That's super fun. I like the game. I buy it. It's like $15, fair price. It took me 13 hours to beat. Which that's an insane time. That's an insane length of a game for that price.
So when it comes to Dynasty Warriors Origins, I'm going to put this into context for you. Most other Dynasty Warriors games, to play all 3, because usually there's at least 3 campaigns in the main story mode.
Yeah.
It's maybe 8 or 9 hours. Which is a decent chunk of change.
Fine.
I have not beaten the story yet. I am in chapter 3. I don't know how many chapters there are, but I'm in chapter 3. Anybody who has beaten the game, that'll put into context how long I've spent. I'm in chapter 3. I have played 30.6 hours.
Damn. That is quite a bit. That's how I felt when I played Persona 5 finally.
So one of the major things that happens in every Dynasty Warriors game is the Yellow Turban Rebellion and beating Zheng Zhao. That's usually mission 1 and 2 of any game. That's what it is. I beat Zheng Zhao at hour 12.
Huh.
It is a long ass game. Again, I'm trying to do everything. My character's already maxed out fully. Every ability that I can have is maxed out.
Damn.
And I've got a metric ass ton of gold. I have maximum bonds with everybody that I can. I'm also not clicking through the dialogue because I can read faster than they can talk, so I can read the subtitles and I could click through it. I'm not doing that. I'm letting the full dialogue play.
Well, I want to hear the voice acting when I'm playing stuff like this.
Well, and I'm also playing it in traditional Japanese or traditional Chinese.
Oh, well.
Because when you start the game, it gives you the option. It's obviously turn subtitles to English, but then it's also what do you want the voices to be? English, Japanese, or Chinese? And I was like, it's a game about ancient China. I'm going to have them speak in Chinese. That just makes sense.
Which has, I like
it has elicited.
It
has elicited a few weird looks from my parents as they're walking through the room because they can't see my screens. And so they just hear Chinese talking. And just they're a couple of times they were just like, why are you listening to Chinese? And it's been don't worry, there's English subtitles. It's okay.
See, this is where we differ culturally. Subtitles have always just been the standard here. So if you're watching basically anything, you're going to hear the original language.
Yeah.
Unless it's a movie for children. So So that would never happen. If I'm watching something and it's in French or whatever, nobody's gonna bat
Well, my parents have never been big like subtitles people. Like if there's
Mm.
a dub, they want the dub.
That's what I'm
Just
saying. It's a
because they're
cultural
just
thing.
like, and in fact, they will. In the past, they have said no to watching entire movies that had subtitles.
Oh, jeez.
They're just like, we don't really want to watch. We don't like, not really what they want to do, which is fair. Like,
Yeah, sure.
they don't want to read while they're watching a movie. That's okay.
I'm not.
My
Gonna
parents are also
for
very
it,
much
so.
like, my parents have great movie taste. Like, I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but they're very much like popcorn movie watchers.
Yeah.
Like, they watch movies purely for the enjoyment of it. It's not really about like the art or the craft of cinema for them, which is fine. Like, that's
nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely nothing wrong with the way with that way. But because of that, they choose to oftentimes they're watching movies purely because they're fun. Which is great, but it also does sometimes lead to them watching pure trash.
Well, I mean, I watch trash all the fucking time off my own volition anyway. So
oh yeah, I do too. But it's kind of funny though that like some of their choices. But subtitled stuff isn't really a thing in the household. So it has just kind of been a little weird. I've always been a big fan of subtitles.
If we're talking,
also, I'm also one of those people that if I'm watching something, even if I can perfectly hear what they're saying and they're speaking my language, I still have subtitles on.
I do that for English, even though I can perfectly understand just about any English I hear, except if we're like talking like extremely local, like Cockney English or something.
Yeah,
where I will need subtitles. But
well,
for the most part, I can understand everything, but I still have subtitles on. In case I miss something, or I can learn a new word, or stuff like that. Yeah,
that's the thing. I turn subtitles on in case I missed something because they've been getting better about it, but Hollywood's been having this weird thing where their sound mixing has been kind of jacked up over the last few years. And again, they are getting better, but like where sometimes it's hard to hear the dialogue. I sound like such a fucking old guy complaining about this.
Oh, I mean, here's a little thing about Denmark and Danish movies. I'm gonna keep it brief. Don't worry. Because we have, or at least we had, this movement called the Dogma 95 movement way back in the day, where the whole point was to like keep things realistic. Like no overblown costumes, no non-diegetic music, and it's not like this is the standard or anything.
But I mean, that's kind of cool, but
it is, and sometimes it sucks ass. But the point is that led to a long, long time where a lot of actors were taught to act very naturally, very understated, which also means that dialogue in Danish movies for a solid 15 years was pure fucking mumbling. It drove me insane.
Well, and as someone who has done acting, I've acted both on stage and I've acted in films. I will say that one thing that I've directed, one thing that I've always said to people about like cinema at the very least, or when you're on camera, is that you can be a lot more subtle, but there is a line where like you still need to enunciate because what you're saying needs to be heard unless you're going to do ADR. But even then, you should still be enunciating because you've got to hear what you said to time it up in the booth.
I had an experience recently. I was in a commercial recently, actually.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. And all I had to do, for the most part, was like walk down. I was walking down a supermarket aisle, like as someone working there, and it actually took longer than because I've done this a lot. Like, I'm not trying to pat myself in the back here, but I can take directions. But it still took way longer than I did because every time they told me to like look happier, like I enjoyed being there, like I enjoyed being at work, every single time I was like, are you asking me to overact? Which in theory, yes, he was. And it just took me a while to really adjust to that because a person who looks happy is just going to look neutral in the real world.
Yeah. Overacting
commercial.
For a lot of directors and for a lot of people, overacting is a naughty word. Because it's always been put in the context of like a negative. But there are some situations where you do want someone to overact.
Well, here's the thing. When you talk visuals, this is in art too, by the way. I'm holding this, so because I was talking earlier. This is in art too.
I'm also just used to you holding that because you hold that more than you think you do.
I do. Exaggeration actually does help understanding.
It does.
Because the real world is subtle. The real world micro expressions, everything. You can't really read people the way you do in movies. That's not how reality works. So almost every time you're watching a movie and you're like, wow, look at that subtle little expression. That's not subtle. Nobody does that.
Well, and so one of the things that I always struggled with, being part of the Reno, Nevada film scene, a lot of the actors there are stage actors. That's primarily what they've come up doing, and that's primarily what they do because there's not a lot of film going on. There's more than there used to be. But so the thing about acting on stage versus acting in film, as I said, with a camera, you could be a lot more subtle because the camera can get a lot closer to you than an audience ever can. So a lot of these people who were raised on stage acting, they learn to be a lot bigger with all of their expressions, with their movement, and with just everything about their performance. And working with some of these people, one of the biggest struggles was just getting them to bring it down. Like, I just need you to chill out.
See,
but
this is exactly why my problem happened. Sorry, go on. I mean,
there was one film. I wasn't directing this one and I wasn't acting in this one. I was just being a gaffer in this one. But this is a primary example of a situation where being over the top is a good thing. I was working on a short film, and the scene had a character in it that was actually played by the director. But he was a guy who was, during the scene, was high on cocaine. And was very manic and very paranoid, and he was in a situation where he was very like, it was just it made sense for him to be bigger and to be very loud and bombastic and to overact because it made sense within the scene. And while the short is god awful, and I would never show it to anybody, you will never find it because I will never tell you the name. It's that scene, the performance in that scene, I have no complaints about because it was, I have complaints about the scene, but I don't have complaints about the performance in that scene because it was exactly what it needed to be. And that was a situation where having a stage actor do that was great. But
see, that's exactly the problem I ran into, because I actually do stage acting locally, amateur theater. I'm not saying that I'm like some major acting.
What you don't know is that Esh is a Broadway actor. He's been on the big stage many a time. He's classically trained. He's part of the Royal Shakespeare Company.
I did have a lead role in a very well-regarded play when I was 17, so thank you very much. But anyway, my point is,
what is your dream stage acting role?
I want to be a villain. Have one. At least once I want to be a villain. I don't even care which one. I just want to play the bad guy once, like an actual evil guy.
I have said this for years, and I will keep saying it, and maybe someday I will get the opportunity. I want to be Brutus and Julius Caesar.
Nice.
I don't know why that is just always a rule. That's always a role that's always like stood out to me as something that I think that I could do really well.
But my point was, I do a bit of local amateur theater. And again, I'm not trying to put myself on some kind of pedestal because I'm not a professional. But
because he sucks.
Yeah.
No, I've seen Ash's acting. He's pretty good.
Oh, thank you. Because I do that, and I also sometimes get a gig as an extra in TV stuff. Never with lines, or at least very rarely with lines. But that's kind of the problem I ran into with that commercial, because like I know the difference between those two things. So my instinct when there's a camera on is to tone it down.
Yeah.
Because on a stage, and especially on like a small local stage, the reason you go way bigger, like your arm movements are gonna be bigger, your voice is gonna be louder, you're going to over enunciate, is so the people in the back know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah, you got to sell it to people far away from you.
Because if a person who's sitting like 40 lines away is not gonna be able to see you do like a little. They're gonna see you do a pratfall. Like, I'm exaggerating, but you get my point. So that's why I was struggling in that commercial. Like, you want me to basically bounce around? Like, he actually said, like, walk in a way that makes your hair bounce so you look happy. And I'm like, are you fucking joking?
I can understand that in a commercial context, because commercials you do it's the idea of heightened reality.
Yes.
It happens a lot.
It made perfect sense. I'm just saying it took me a while to adjust to it, because my instinct on a camera is to go lower. Precisely because I know the difference, you know? I know what works on a camera and what works on a stage.
I could see
Ash. I know at least.
I could see Ash as Renfield.
Are we talking the actual Renfield movie that came out a year ago or so? Because that was hilarious.
I mean, really, any portrayal of Renfield from Bram Stoker's work is very like, it's almost like to me, it's very much in line also with like playing Igor in Frankenstein.
It's
a very like yes, master like kind of thing.
You just want me to see. You just want to watch me eat bugs. That's all this is.
Maybe a little bit. Anyways, we're way off topic. I have to go because I actually have another podcast that I have to go record for, which is always fun.
Which is going to be way less fun than this one, but you have to do your work.
No, it's probably going to be just as fun. Actually, it's just a different kind of fun.
Nice.
I get to talk about I get to talk about physical media on that one.
Hell yeah.
So that's why that's actually not why I have a whole bunch of boxes of my physical media behind me, but it is what I'm going to use as my segue.
Right. So yeah, we're going to have to skip out of the game this time, guys. So that's it for today.
Yeah, which is going to be a bummer. But
thanks for popping in, folks.
Yeah. See you guys around. Have a good rest of your day. Enjoy what is left of your weekend. And we will catch you next Sunday where we'll talk about whatever. I don't know.
Let's see what we come up with.
Some more of this kind of stuff. See you guys.
Wow, that was probably